Hi everyone, welcome to week 7 of your Medical Language 1 course. This week we're going to cover 2 chapters. The first chapter is the cardiovascular system. The cardiovascular system consists of the heart, the veins, the arteries, the capillaries, all of the things that make up the blood vessels and the circulatory system. So we're going to look at specifically the parts of the heart, the chambers of the heart, how the blood flows in the heart. Here's an example of a picture that you'll see in this week's chapter. So it's going to show you the blood flow, and notice that you've got the oxygen-rich blood, which is in red, and the oxygen-poor blood, which is in blue. So that's a very important thing to understand when you're looking at how oxygenation occurs and what the actual heart does, how the cardiac system works. It's really important to understand the blood flow because that's key, obviously. There's a lot of terminology that you're going to be learning in this chapter. Everything from the different parts of the heart and the circulatory system to some of the conditions that occur within the cardiovascular system. Some of those you may have heard of before: aneurysm, for example, weakness of a blood vessel. Angina. Angina is just chest pain, it's just another name for chest pain. Arrhythmia, any type of abnormal heartbeat. So an arrhythmia doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. It just means it's not exactly the way it's supposed to be. Arterial sclerosis is hardening of the arteries. We've got arterial sclerosis, which is the fatty plaque that develops within the arterial lining, which is like the precursor to arterial sclerosis. Bradycardia, which is about, again, heart rate. So you're going to learn those pieces of the word and how they put together tell you something a little bit about that particular condition. Congestive heart failure, coronary artery disease, fibrillation, hypertension, myocardial infarction, which is the heart attack. So all of those things are some of the pathological conditions that you're going to look at. And then, of course, as with all of our chapters, we're going to look at some of those medications that are used to treat some of these things. So maybe we're talking simply about, how to lower your cholesterol, okay? How to change your blood pressure, how to adjust your blood pressure. Furosemide is Lasix. It's one of those blood pressure medications that's used for a lot of different things. It's a diuretic, so it helps to reduce your blood pressure by removing the amount of water in your blood that your heart has to pump. Nitroglycerin, for example, is something that you may be familiar with, folks that use it sublingually and if they have chest pain and things like that. So lots of different drugs that you're going to be looking at in this chapter. And along with this chapter, we're going to then cover chapter 11. And chapter 11 is really important because chapter 11 is all about the blood. So obviously these two chapters go together. So when we start talking about the blood, obviously that's the fluid that is circulating within the cardiovascular system. So we want to ensure that that blood flow that movement happens properly at all times, because it is key to what we call homeostasis. Homeostasis means keeping everything in balance. Most of us have about 5 liters of blood. So if we have too much or too little, obviously that's going to affect the balance. That blood is key to moving things around the body, specifically oxygen, nourishment to your cells, and then moving out the bad things, the carbon dioxide and other waste products. So it's really important that we look at these two systems together. So the cardiovascular system as well as the blood all together have to work properly in order for us to maintain that homeostasis. So you're going to look at what actually is blood. What's it made of? There's actual parts to the blood. We've got the plasma, which is the liquid part of the blood. So when we think of blood, we think of liquid, right? So there's more to it though than just the liquid, but that is what most of us think of when we think of blood. Then we've also got our red blood cells. We've got white blood cells, and they all have different functions within the system. And again, if we've got anything going on wrong with that particular part of the system, we're going to have things that we have to address. So, for example, you'll be looking at terms like, anything dealing with the hematology, the study of the blood is what you're going to be looking at. So, the heparin is going to be one of the key drugs you're going to look at in this particular chapter because it is an anti-clotting drug. And if you haven't read the story about Dennis Quaid's twins, I think I may have posted that once before, but you'll want to make sure that you read about that because, having heparin working properly is really, really important. And it kind of talks about that in that particular article that TV show that I post. So as you go through these two chapters, if you have any problems or questions, please make sure you reach out to me. You may call, email, or text anytime. My number is 618-792-2293, and have a great week.